All right, back with this O2 AC30 limited edition, blah, blah, blah. And I've got this pot here, which will let me control the amount of signal being fed to the reverb. Now the amp is sounding good. As soon as I roll the volume up on the guitar, there's a hum just because I'm close to the transformer fields. So ignore that. And as soon as I turn the reverb up, the return up, there's that same hum. And I don't know whether it's because it's close to the transformers or if it's poor grounding in that recovery stage. I expect that as well. And there's all the bleed. So we're going to ignore that hum. I will dial that out as well. So what I want to do is I want to turn this pot up until I set the absolute max reverb we want. So. Let me get a pick so I can really hit the strings hard. I don't want it to break up with the amp set clean. Make sure I've got that tone all the way up. Hear that added hiss from the tone of the reverb being up? That'll also get dealt with lead dress. That's just a little bit too much, so we'll turn that down just slightly. Up a little bit more. That's pretty good for a max. That's about as wet as you'd want an AC30 to go. It's not going to go to full Surf City. Let me turn that down to what I think would be more typical use. I think they've got an audio taper pot versus the linear that's in a Fender. I think that's why I'm finding the o'clock position needs to be a little bit higher to get the same tasteful zone. Well, there goes the power, so that's fun. I've got a protective circuit, so if the wall voltage goes over 130, everything shuts off so amps don't get nuked. And it was still an overload protection mode, which will last a few seconds. So back up to overload. So I can't play or do anything right now, but I think you get the point. So when the power comes on, I'll fine tune this. I think I'm pretty much there on the send. Then I'll measure what the resistance is on each half of this pot, replace that with fixed resistors, and you'll see the next implementation of that. Okay, as you can see, there's a terminal strip, and I did not need to drill. There was a hole already there from the old tube shield, which is a useless thing. So no modifications, just a nice little terminal strip added. And I cut off, it was a three terminal, and I cut it down to just be a 2. And that ground point there is fine for just a grid reference for the AT7. There's a little bit of hum, both picked up by the pickups here. It's very apparent if I go closer to the power transformer. And if I move the reverb tank closer, I got the reverb down just a second. If I move the reverb tank closer, that hum gets a lot worse. So I'm going to move it as far away and find a quiet axis for it. It's not completely silent, even there. If I move it physically farther from the amp, it does get quieter. I think I can rest it on this blues Jenner thing. Well, wasn't that fun? Anyway, I've got it resting on a blues Junior beneath the bench. It's enough farther away that it is even quieter. I'm a little suspicious of the proximity of these heater wires to this grid, and I may replace these two resistors with some mounted up. I'll play around with that, and I'll just physically move the heater wires closer and farther away, see if that affects it. But anyway, now with the reverb at max, that's pretty good. It's got a lot of hiss, which is just due to the nature of the current wiring not being shielded or having the best lead dress. Let me turn the tone down a little bit to offset that. And let's turn this down to about noon on the reverb level, which should be a little more realistic. I think I could maybe get it a little deeper at max. That's adjusting the lower of the two resistors in the divider that you see there, the one going to ground. Just need to increase that a little bit. I had it dialed in pretty well with a pot, and that was about a 1-to-10 ratio. And that's pretty much what I've got here. I think I can go a little more like 8-to-1. The taper of the pot is not great on the level. What I have in here now is very usable in terms of getting a I think I can just go a little bit more on the max depth. It's just a matter of fine-tuning it. But that's just a one resistor change. While I've got it in this situation, let me move those heater wires in question and see if that affects the sound we're getting. Let me put the return at 10, so I'm hearing the worst case. I'll try not to hit that tank again like I did a minute ago. It's this red heater wire here. All right, that's not affecting it. So that's good. And we move the camera down a little bit. So aside from getting the ratio a little bit better, the next issue here is B4, which is the reverb return. And this is the wire coming from the tank return. And then it goes a whole bunch of stuff over to the front panel. And it's all bundled up together. And this bunch of stuff, and it's got tremolo and reverb stuff together. And it's got like 3 separate runs from the board where they've got part of the tone stack here. I may remove this cap and disconnect this wire and put the same function cap just from pot to pot. It's just going from the reverb level pot to the reverb return pot. And then there's another one, which is the roll-off. Anyway, I think those 2 caps and 3 wires can be turned into 1 wire with the caps on the pot, and that does reduce the issue we have with this. And then the other issue is just that the tank is very sensitive to proximity. And let's see if I can put it on the floor real quick. I'm going to put the amp in standby so we don't have a huge crash of reverb like we did a few minutes ago. Trying to see if I can get the reverb tank to sit on the floor. That's pretty close. Let me put it on a small box. So that's about a foot farther away than it was before. And that hum is much, much lower, but it's still there. I think the remaining is going to be lead dress and shielding and maybe changing some grounding, because they've got the reverb ground shared with the tremolo ground, and I need to see where that's going. This thing was not designed particularly well, as I've said. And it's easy to say that stuff and someone just thinks it's opinion. You know, everyone's got an opinion, man. Well, you do this for 30 years and you work on a few thousand amps and many hundred of them being AC30s. Yeah, you get to be opinionated. But those opinions tend to be backed up by reasons. And one of the reasons that the tone circuit on this reverb gets a little bit hissy is it does have that, it's wired like the tone circuit of a 5E3 Deluxe, so it actually does boost some reverb. The treble gets boosted if the volume, the reverb level is not at 10, and that's up. I may change that from that to just being a passive roll-off, because I don't think you ever need to make the reverb brighter. But now with the decreased send level, if I turn this off, there's no bleed. That's nice. So with the tone about 1 o'clock and the level about 1 o'clock, because it's not a very good taper on that pot. Just skirting some stones, copyright.